So this is about creating a influencer marketing program, a global influencer marketing program from scratch, where there was nothing before, and now there is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey. But before I do that, I want to ask, does anyone know what SAP does? I'm sure you've heard of it, but so I hope you have, Amy, because you work with us. SAP is one of the largest software enterprise companies in the world. We have over 80,000 employees. We have a lot of customers. We cover software from finance to HR to supply chain, you name it, across 25 industries. So that's quite a lot. So in our marketing team, we have global marketing, we have regional marketing, and we even have market unit level, which is country level marketing around the world. So that's a little bit about SAP and kind of the global marketing structure that we have. So we talk about influencer marketing. So this is a great quote. Success is all about persistence and doing the right thing for the long term. And the reason why I brought this quote up is because when I first took this role on, it didn't exist. And so a lot of people ask me now, well, how did you end up in this role and how did you end up doing influencer marketing at SAP? So I was doing mobile product marketing, and they decided to make a reorg, and my job was going to be something a little bit different. And I had been talking to one of my first bosses at SAP that I did corporate communications with, Jim Dever. And we had always talked about the idea of communications and third-party voices impacting sales or influencing sales. And we'd always, kind of kicked this idea around for a while. And when I was in mobile product marketing, I had started working with some mobile influencers in marketing. And so we've been keeping in touch. And so this transition was happening, and I called him and I said, hey, it's August. You're talking about with your boss, they're going to be starting a new audience marketing team, which is going to be our global campaigns team. And they were, we were thinking maybe this would be a good idea to pitch to his boss and kind of create something like this there. And I called him in August and I said, guess what? I have to take another role and I won't be available in September like we talked about. So do you think we can make this happen now? We have 6 weeks. So 6 weeks passed. I talked to his boss and we gave the idea. She really liked it. We talked to a whole bunch of other people. They loved it. There was no budget, but that's okay. They said, let's just make it happen. And 4 p.m. on the last day for me to accept any other role than the one that I was supposed to take, they call and they're like, we can make it happen. So, very last minute, down to the wire, but that really shows, that's persistence, right? You have to keep persisting and keep selling and keep talking to the right people. And so that's actually how I got the role. And the very next week they said, okay, so what's your plan? So, and there was a blank slate. So let's talk a little bit about influence. This picture, I love this picture. I've used this a lot. Everybody's, you can see, they're being bombarded with, advertising, all kinds of stuff with cans, and she's having a bottle. And her friend says, I'll have what she's having. And so that's really the power of influence, right? We are influenced by our peers greatly. And so when you think about, that's B2C. Everyone has heard about B2C influencer marketing for a long time. B2B is a little bit newer, a little bit different, because there's a longer sales cycle and there's a different kind of type of buyer. So why do we really want to do influencer marketing for B2B? If you look at the statistics, 70% of people already complete their journey because everything's online, it's mobile, you can do your own research. So people come more informed to the process or more informed to a vendor than they ever have before. 85% of customers, they're looking for peer-to-peer or an expert that they really trust to tell them this is a better brand or this is a better idea or this is a better technology or this is what's working. 84% look for a referral. So I know, for a lot of folks that do analyst relations, that's where that comes important. For other things, it's, another company. So it's advocates for your brand can really influence your buyer. And then, if you look at influencer marketing in B2B, specifically B2B, usually demonstrates a 6-to-1 return on investment, which is pretty high. It's higher than advertising. It's higher than a lot of other things. But it's really high and it's really personal, right? So where we began, so you remember my story, where we began, a completely blank slate. So originally we thought this was going to be a little bit more around, a little bit more communication, a little bit more PR. But as we dug into it, really thought about where we sit. We sit in the global audience marketing team. This team is responsible at SAP for global programs and content that go down to our regions. The regions can then localize these, and it's across all of our product lines. And it's not really product. When we say audience marketing, we're targeting the buying audiences, and that's how we sell, right? So that's what the regions will use. The regions also use from the global product marketing team, which is a different team, all the product information. They combine that and they create motions in their market and down to the country level. So we sit in the global audience marketing team. So we are really beholden to create programs that are really going to help drive demand gen. And we're really looking for, in our initial phase, we're really looking for B2B tech influencers, because that's who our buyers are listening to and following. And this is where I just want to talk a little bit about B2C influencers versus B2B influencers. So B2C influencers, you see a lot of celebrity. You know, I was talking to somebody from Estee Lauder yesterday. They have 20,000 influencers across all of their brands, because anyone can buy makeup, right? So, you know, they have a much wider audience. It's a more everyday audience. When you're looking at B2B, it's a really specific buyer. So you're really looking for specific folks. So you may not be getting those really big celebrities, but there are celebrities in tech, as you know, and we follow them. And we also look for a mix of, you know, different types of influencers. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is where we began. So let's talk about the different types of influencers there are. So when you look at the world of influencers, you know, your PR teams are working with journalists and bloggers. Your analyst relations teams are working with top-tier analysts like the Gartners, the Forresters, the IDCs. You know, they may be also working with independent industry analysts. Then we look at everybody else. So we look at, you know, we have a great AR and PR program at SAP. We look at those folks like academics, thought leaders, authors, you know, a lot of people leading online communities, online chat places, online water cooler places. We look for customers, and we have a very large ecosystem at SAP of partners that consult and sell SAP also. So we look at partners as well. And then we look at independent business consultants as well, because a lot of them are building their own business and they developed a big voice on a topic, right? So this is kind of the framework of the different types of influencers that are out there. And, you know, these are the different types of outputs that they have. And so we really want to think about, you know, what outputs do we want to be included in or work with them on? So that's the type of influencers. Now we have to focus on our goal. You know, what is it that we're trying to do with influencers and influencer marketing? So this is where I'll bring up another point. The difference between influencer relations and the difference between and influencer marketing, because there is a difference. Influencer relations is more the practice of working with third-party experts and really amplifying your brand and in the awareness stage of the funnel. So when you think about the sales funnel now, it's more about awareness. It's about inviting people to events. It's getting social amplification. It's getting coverage in blogs. That's more influencer relations. Influencer marketing is more deeper in the marketing funnel. You can have awareness in it, and you will, because you're always going to have that as part of your programs, and you should. But you can drive leads, you can drive nurture programs, and you can drive demand gen. And you can even get down to advocacy. We'll talk about that a little later. But this is where we began. We decided that our goal was to drive awareness and demand gen. So we really want to take people from top to middle funnel. So that's where we were really looking at it. So, and then I've laid out like where, you know, other people sit. So we also, at SAP, you know, we have a big social selling and digital team. So how can we take what we're doing in influencer marketing and bring it to that team? How can we take what we're doing at the global level and bring it to our regions? Because that's really where a lot of the action is and sales happen. And how can we include our partners and our customers who are really our advocates, right? And bring all these folks together to create motions for demand gen. And then on the bottom, always on social media and amplification. And that's really important given, you know, today's landscape, right? Because everyone is mobile, people want things shorthand. If they're interested, they'll dig deeper. So this is kind of the lay of the land where we began. So in the beginning, how do you start your program? You know, okay, great, we have good support. You know, I'm from Penny Delgadillo Valencia. We got good support from her. She leads global audience marketing at SAP. And my boss, okay, great, we have some executive buy-in. Now we have to look at our stakeholders. Who is going to be interested to do influencer marketing? We decided to go with the IT team, and we said, we're going to do a pilot, so you need to map out a pilot. It's not like you can just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to create a global influencer marketing program. Here's the infrastructure, and here's all the 15 things we're going to do and hit the ground running at once. It doesn't work that way. In order to build a really good program, you kind of have to test it out and see what works for your brand. Whether you're small or large, you want to start somewhere. So you want to map out a pilot. So we went with the IT audience team, raised their hand. And so they were the brave ones. They stepped forward, and that's really targeting our CIO market, but also all of our products that are more IT focused, right? So we were looking at both product and also the motion to CIOs. So that is where we decided to start. And then you have to really think about, what is the business outcome? What is the measurement that you're going to use to determine success? So we decided that we're going to say, okay, we're going to do some campaign videos at our annual conference, because a lot of our campaign motions had already been decided because we start planning that the September before. We were starting our program in December December 2015 and January 2016. So we were already a little bit late to the game. So we said, okay, let's look at what's ahead. It is our big annual show in May. Let's map to that. But in the meantime, we have to lay the groundwork for success for that to happen. And we also have a philosophy, which is our program is SAP inspired, but influencer-led content, programs, thinking, and that is really difficult for people to think about. So we're asking our stakeholders, we're going to give the influencers information. We're going to inform them. We're going to educate them. But in the end, it is going to be their voice and their point of view that's going to come across, and they will infuse what we've brought to them in their own way. So there is a little bit of, we're not going to control the message. We're going to let them take it to market in a different way. So that it can be hard sometimes to explain to your stakeholders, but you have to say, let's do it. That's why you do a pilot, right? So you don't do it all at once. And you could do it in a very measured and controlled fashion. So the key to the program, for influencer marketing, you need influencers. So finding the right influencer is extremely important to the success of any program. So you have to really think about, what is your outcome and who is it that you're really trying to influence. So for us, I'm really looking at the buyer. Like, who are we really targeting? Who are they listening to? Who are they inspired by? Who do they aspire to be? Who are their peers? Who are the people? And also, who are the peers around them that are influenced by others? Because those are the people that are going to help them make those buying decisions. So that's the group that I'm really trying to create some influence to and around. So that's one thing, is knowing that. And then looking at the influencers. So how do you find those influencers, right? You need some tools and technology to do that. So, there's always Google search, and there's a list for everything out there these days. So you can certainly do that if you're a startup. You don't have funding to go out and get a tool, but there's also like Buzzimo, which is free, and other things that you can get for free. But then there are tools, when you're in the enterprise, we need some tools to help us figure out. And we have to identify the influencers, but then we also have to measurement. Remember that piece about measurement, because we have to demonstrate success and not just, here we got, a couple million impressions, because what does that really do for the business? Because we're influencer marketing. So one of the tools that we use is Tracker. It helps us identify influencers. It helps us track them, and it helps us measure our success. So that is really important to us. We also, we have a technology stack at SAP now. But in the beginning, we had to identify and measure first, right? So we had Tracker, and in-house we already had Sprinkler. So those are the two tools that we had to help us identify and measure. Then we want to, okay, we've identified influencers, we have some tools, okay, we're feeling good, we know some activities we want to do, okay. Now we need to start to talk to influencers, right? Because they have to agree to come to our show. They have to agree to talk to us. We don't know what that's going to look like, because we need to engage, right? So now you want to create relationships of value. And it's not just about straight ROI, and don't make it transactional either. So, a lot of people say, well, how do you reach out to an influencer? Well, how are they going to pay attention? Oh, it must be because your name is SAP. No, that's actually not true, because there's some people who didn't call me back because they saw SAP, and they're like, thanks, but no thanks. The email that I send out was very simple. Hi, I'm doing influencer marketing at SAP. We're just starting our program. I saw X, Y, and Z that you're writing about. I would love to see how you engage with brands. And so 90% of the time I got people to call me back or email me back and have that initial conversation. 10% did not. 2 or 3 of the biggest influencers we have in our program now did not call me back, did not email me. I tried, DMing them on Twitter. I tried LinkedIn. I was like, what? Like nobody, why don't they want to talk to us? So they talked to all our competitors, and one of them said, well, he said, I see that you're hounding me. He said, I don't think that I don't really want to engage with your brand because I don't think, you guys are an old company and blah, blah, blah. And I said, how about this? Spend 30 minutes and then I'll let you go. Just give me 30 minutes of your time. And he's like, I'm going to, otherwise I feel like you're going to keep emailing me or direct messaging me. So remember, we talked about persistence. So sometimes it, works. We have to be a little bit of a stalker sometimes. So, and then he did. And I said, how do you engage with brands? And what is it that I can do to even, you don't work with us, just, talk to somebody at SAP and see the new stuff because you're talking about stuff we did a while ago and bring you up to speed. He said, well, I don't know what you guys are doing because no one ever contacted me. So then we started having a real conversation, and that actually has turned out to be one of my most fruitful relationships. Up to Dion Hinchcliffe, and he's one of our big IT influencers. He talks to the top CIOs in the world. So he's a very busy man, but he gave me an earful, but he also gave me a lot of value, and then we started our relationship, right? And we work with him a lot now. So you want to create relationships of value because that's really important. And something to remember is you want to create something that's an always on. So you don't want a one and done. It's not like a one-hit wonder like, okay, great, thanks for coming to our event. Or hey, great, thanks for being in our asset. And then we never speak to them until we need something again. Like that's not a good way to keep a relationship. Like you wouldn't be friends with somebody if they did that to you, right? So you want to create these kinds of relationships that really matter. And then you can check in with them. Even if you don't have any work, you can say, what are you working on? What are you seeing? On a quarterly basis, at least have a touch point at some point with them, especially the ones that you really, are working with a lot. And then if you notice some people that, are dropping off or not as interested, you want to keep an eye on that because it is a relationship and it is a two-way street. They're expecting you to be in as well.